Great. Perfect. Thank you. It's 7 p.m. and the Upton Conservation Commission meeting for Wednesday, August 9th. And 7 p.m. we have the VFW enforcement order update. So, Stephen, what do you have for us?
Well, we got the fencing all up, and then we got some signs up there that I talked to Mary about, and I got 2 of them up, and we put them on. So, and then we're also probably going. I don't know if I got to talk to one of my guys. He may have already seeded the flat area. That's about it.
Mary, what are your thoughts?
Great. Yeah, I was by there this afternoon and I did not get these pictures in my report, but I took a few pictures. So this is their fence and their nice sign. This is the area where the fill was that was plant seeded. You can see the jute mat still underneath. It looks, considering it's mostly sandy, it looks pretty thick with grass. The rain, I'm sure, has been helping. Another, so they have the fence, I don't know, it's not the same width, but I think typically at least 3 feet back from the stones. And there's another section closer to the ball field. And this is the remaining dirt pile. So it's pretty much all gone. And this is what the flat area looks like. It doesn't look like it's been seeded to me.
Okay, well, like I said, I got to find out if they did or didn't. So
Yeah. I think I'm actually, everything's really stable there, I think, in my opinion. So I'm whatever the board thinks, but I'm almost ready to, once that, now the silt fence is still down below, and I would like for them to remove the silt fence, see if it's still down here.
Oh, you want that taken out? All right.
Take the silt fence out, and it looks like there's a little bit of trash that got blown down there.
Yeah.
I think we're ready for that. And then the board can decide what they want to do about, there's this is where the worst area of the fill was. You can still see some of the jute. So the grass is thin, but then again, remember, it's mostly almost on sand. It's pretty sandy fill there. That one, that's a different one. So those are kind of my comments.
Now, Stephen, is that your final fence that's there, or is that temporary?
We haven't decided yet. We're going to be putting it through, getting all kinds of quotes and finding out if we can put a better fence up. But right now, that's about it for now, until decided.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions or comments from the commission? Or from the audience?
Hi, my name is Valentin Komarovsky. I wanted to ask if the meeting is being recorded.
Yes, it is.
And how is the recording available later?
It will be on, Upton has a YouTube channel, which you can get to through the website. And it takes us about a week to get it up, or usually less than a week, but allow a week to get the recording up.
Okay, thank you for answering my question.
Oh, you're welcome. Does anyone have other questions for Mary or Steve Saucier from the VFW?
So I have questions in regards to 24 East Street. I don't know if you have gotten that far yet or no.
We're not there yet.
Okay.
That's until 7:15.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Mary, what's our next step?
Well, I think, well, I would like to see the silt fence come out. We might be at a point where the board would decide to lift the enforcement orders, or we could wait until that area is seeded and kind of grown in a little bit more. But the slopes are stable, and they have the fence up. It does look like, the fence could be permanent or temporary, but it's as temporary fences go, it's a pretty permanent temporary fence, I'd say.
Looks good. Okay. Does anyone else have questions or comments?
Well, Mary, if we lifted the enforcement order, would that be okay with you at this point, or would you prefer to? Okay.
I'm fine.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we lift the enforcement order at this time, with the understanding that the silt fence will be removed and the upper plateau will be seeded.
We
Second,
have a second.
second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, aye.
Sandy, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I.
And just for the minutes, I think there were 2 outstanding enforcement orders. There's one against the VFW and one against Ed McKinney personally. So that was for both enforcement orders.
And that's a unanimous vote of the members present. So that would be lifting both of them, I believe. And any other comments? And Mary will get those to you, Steve.
All right. Thank you. Is that it?
I believe so. Thank
Right.
you. Good job.
All right.
Stephen, just let me know when you have the silt fence down and that'll be good.
All right.
Thank
Will do.
Okay. You won't be on our
Okay.
next agenda. So that's a good thing. And we have 7:07. So let's go over the administrator's report. Okay. It's 8 minutes before we can open the next hearing.
Yeah. So I'll bring up my agent report. One thing though that I would like to bring up, you folks probably remember 11 Hartford Ave. This is the situation where they did a determination to put an addition on. And I don't know if any of you actually went and looked at the house. The house is not too far from Dunkin' Donuts. It's just on the other side of the road. And so there was a intermittent stream in the backyard, and we had asked them to install some bounds, and they did. And then they were installed incorrectly. They were too close to the wetland, and we asked them to move the bounds further back, which the contractor did. So they're 30 feet into the yard because he had been mowing all the way to the edge of the wetland. And so the homeowner came in. He wasn't really consulted, I guess, about moving the bounds. The contractor just did it as I asked him to, which was nice of him. And the homeowner was very upset. Feels like he's lost part of his lawn. And I had encouraged him to come to the meeting. He says he doesn't use computers at all. So I'm bringing this up before you at his request. I had suggested to him that, the bounds stay, maybe he could mow like he used to. And when the house sells, then that would, be the mark off point for when it stops being maintained as lawn. He didn't like that idea because he thought he was losing value to his house. So I just wanted to bring this before you because he asked me to see what you guys had thoughts on.
Mary,
Was he aware? Oh, go ahead, Tom.
has he been mowing that lawn for a long time? Like, how long has he lived there?
Oh, I think maybe, I get the feeling he's been there maybe 10 years. I'm not sure, but yeah, he has been mowing the lawn for a while.
And it's always been lawn?
It's, yeah, as far as I know. So he's just been maintaining it.
Okay, all right.
This work that was done, surely he had a chance to see the plans and could see that how.
Yeah, I'm not sure he really actually understood See, there was, the addition was for his in-laws, and they did a lot of the permitting. The in-laws were fine with whatever the Concom wanted, and wanted to make sure we were happy. They cleaned out the leaves and stuff that were in the wetland. They did all this work. I'm not sure how involved he was, whether he ever saw the plans. So it could have just been a misinformation situation. But
But he would have signed off on it as the property owner, right?
Potentially the company, it was a modular home addition. That company did all the permitting. So.
And you said that this has been existing lawn for as long as he's had
As far as we know, and I think his complaint, and we do need to write a few letters to the neighbors. One of the neighbors has his landscape people throw all the leaves back there. So yeah, that's a problem. And the other neighbor, and I don't know how this got permitted or whether it was pre-existing. I assume it's a very old house. He has an addition which backs up almost to the stream there. So he's just feeling like, how come everybody, nobody else has to follow the rules or whatever? I'm the only one. So
Is there a possibility for kind of meeting in the middle, giving him some or maybe half or 2/3 of the lawn back and maintaining some small buffer?
Yeah, I think it's worth talking to him. I mean, ideally he wants the bounds out because, well, there's only 3 of them, but the one is kind of in the middle of the lawn. The other 2 are towards the edge. I don't think they're really in the way. So I didn't promise him anything.
Could be.
Well, I'd be open to some kind of compromise. As long as the wetland is reasonably protected, we don't want grass clippings or yard waste to end up in there. No.
Yeah.
To meet in the middle, could we have him remove the bound in the middle, but leave the 2 on the sides there? What do people think about that?
I guess I'd have to see it or see a plan or something just to see what exactly we're talking about.
Yeah, if it's in one of it's probably on the Google Drive. I could find it in a minute or so if you guys wanted me to take the time to look.
Sure.
Okay, can we come back to that topic? Because we have 2 more minutes.
I'm just trying to remember when this was permitted. Well, maybe we can come back to it later in the meeting. I can
Okay.
take a chance to look at it.
Okay, we can do that.
All
So-
right. Another update. I had talked to Chris on the phone about this. The Dogwood Drive access easements. The town council is working on it. I did meet with Joe and Mike on it, and Joe really wants to be involved in this. He wants to have some staff involvement. He's concerned that everything's handled properly, and so he's also talking with town council. And I think he's willing to, he would like to see a good resolution here. So I think he's willing to, if the town needs to put some money forward to fix the easement situation, he's willing to help with that. It wouldn't necessarily need to come out of Concom money. So,
Was there any talk about going back to the developer?
yeah, they weren't quite that far yet, but yeah, I think that's going to be something they're going to look into. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just ask if possible. I mean, that Mary, you be allowed to attend any meetings.
Okay.
You know, as well as Joe and Michael or Mike.
Yeah, no, they've been.
Yeah, you know, I don't know how the rest of you folks feel, but you know, I just would like to hear if Annie is bad-mouthing the commission like she did in her emails, her 2 emails, which I think was in writing. It was almost slander, you know, to be honest. Some of the things she said. So.
Yeah, I think Joe's aware that there's an issue there, and he wants to try to meet with her kind of on the staff level to kind of diffuse that, I think. So he's hoping to.
I'm not sure we fused it.
Yeah, right, of course.
You know, that's the thing. It wasn't like there was a screaming match, you know.
Yeah.
The post, you know, her recollection of the meetings after they occurred didn't fit with my reality, and probably not Tom's or Marcelo's. You know, but anyway, I'd be happy if Mary was, you know, was cued in so we can learn of the progress from you and make any decisions if we need to make any decisions.
Yeah, I'd like to see some Concom representation there. And are these going to be recorded or somebody taking minutes? Just so it's documented.
I don't. The last one wasn't, so, but I don't know. I can. And really, there wasn't much of consequence in the last one, except town council saying, yeah, these were great questions and I need to look into it.
We should
Right.
definitely have them.
Who was town council? Was it?
It was Katie Klein.
Klein. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't know who put this together, but they did a really good job with their questions. So
Yay, Bill and Mike.
that's right.
So I think it would be important to have whatever discussions occur recorded or there are minutes for them. So there's no misconstruing of what was said on anyone's part.
Yeah. So.
Okay, and we have 7:15 now. So we have a request for determination of applicability for 24 East Street. And we have reopening the hearing for construction of a single-family home. And Mary, do you have the public announcement that was in the paper?
Yes, it did make it into the paper this time. I checked. And here it is. Town of Upton Conservation Commission public hearing notice is hereby given in accord to the Wetlands Protection Act that the Upton Conservation Commission will hold the following public hearing on Wednesday, August 9th at 7:15 p.m. Request for determination of applicability filed by New Generations Custom Homes, Court Marcella Alves, to determine whether the work is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Upton Wetlands Protection Bylaw on a lot located at 24 East Street. All interested parties are invited to participate.
Okay, so what we'll do now is hear from the applicant, and then we'll hear from Mary and questions from the commission, and then from the audience. So do we have the applicant here?
You know, I'm not sure if the applicant showed up.
Hi, my name is Valentino Komarovsky. I have a question
might-
in regards to the notice.
You need to wait for a couple minutes because you need to hear from Mary and then the commission, then we'll hear from you, sir.
Okay.
So Mary, what are your comments?
All right, so we reviewed this application about approximately a year ago, and we issued a negative determination. Here, I'll pull up the plans for it so we can remember what it was. Those for the construction of a new single family home. And we started, I believe you guys, this kind of happened right after I started here, but yet I believe you guys were already involved with it because Dave had looked at the site before that. And there was some concern that there was wetland plants in the cleared area. And I think this happened before I was here, but we asked the applicant to do some research on it. They did put a fair bit of research into their determination. And then the board asked Ecotech for an independent peer review, and they provided a peer review, and they found that although there were a few wetland plants there, the soils were definitely not hydric. And so they declared that this was not a wetland. There are wetlands approximately, you can't see it here, but over 200 feet away to the rear, I believe, of the house area. It says here, 310 feet to mapped wetland layer right there. There are wetlands in the vicinity, also across the street, and either up or down the road, there's a little wetland, but it's not within the area. And so at the time we issued a negative determination of applicability. The reason we're reholding this hearing is because the advertising never made it to the paper a year ago. And so we're correcting that kind of that error. So we're opening it again to make sure we follow the proper process. These are the plans for the house. The house is under construction right now. They're framing it. I was there today, took a few photos just to check to see how everything's holding out after the rain. So I think this is an area that Val also had pictures of. You can see there's a fair bit of erosion going down into the woods, but it's not, anywhere in the vicinity of things. Oops, wrong direction. And then this is just their foundation drain pipe. And I'm curious as to what they're going to do with that. But at the moment, it seems to be okay. Those are my two pictures.
Since this hearing has been opened now, does that mean that the applicant needs to be here to close it?
I don't think so. I don't think you technically need the applicant here.
No, we can open it and close it, but they don't have to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission?
Yeah, I have one comment just to clarify. The commission did email the newspaper
Yes.
the public notice, so the fault is mostly on the newspaper. They, for some reason, they didn't publish it, but we did attempt to place the ad, the public notice in the paper. So, the other question is kind of for Mary. Is there any way stormwater bylaw could apply here in terms of the erosion that's occurring?
Yeah, so the way the stormwater bylaw works is if someone gets a determination or an order of conditions, the determination kind of sits in place of any stormwater permit. And so because he has, and I did make sure he had his wattles installed before he started building, because he has his wattles, as long as the wattles are holding, I was concerned about the neighbor down here. They are holding there's no sedimentation going this direction towards the neighbor. That picture, the sedimentation is going this direction. We could ask him to clean it up. That could be appropriate to try to keep everything on site, but it's not going into any wetland resource area or going onto the neighbor's land. So.
Thank you.
Other questions from the commission? Any questions or comments from the audience?
My name is Valentin Komarovsky, and I have questions and comments. May I proceed?
Yes, please do.
I'm sorry?
Yes, please do.
Okay. So my first question is in regards to the notice. In accordance with Mass General Law, Part 1, Title 7, Chapter 40A, Section 11. This is in the Wetlands Act. It specifies that the notice has to also adhere to the Mass General Law, and this section states, in all cases where notice of a public hearing is required, notice shall be given by publication in a newspaper of general circulation in the city or town once in each of 2 consecutive weeks, the first publication to be not less than 14 days before the day of the hearing, and by posting such notice in a conspicuous place in the city or town hall for a period of no less than 14 days before the day of such hearing. So in order for this notice and the hearing to comply with the Massachusetts law, there should be, in my understanding, a 2 consecutive week notice with a 14-day lead time for such a notice. So why is that not being followed?
I could just, I think I saw your comments on this earlier, and I talked to the planner a little bit about this. I know for planning hearings and zoning board, I'm not sure about zoning board, but for planning hearings, they do require, the 2 weeks, and it gets run twice. I worked for 2 conservation commissions now, and we have only ever done it 1 week ahead. So my assumption is that the wetlands law, that's permissible in the wetlands law, and the wetlands law is different than the rules that the planning board has to run by. So I did not research it.
It doesn't state that it's a planning meeting. It just says in all cases where notice of a public hearing is required. That's what the mass regulations say. So we are in a meeting where public notice is required, but there's just one notice, and it's 5 days before the actual hearing. So in my perspective, it doesn't meet the state requirements.
We can certainly run that by DEP and see if we have satisfied the legal requirements.
Okay. And then in the Town of Upton bylaws, in its section 280-5, notice of hearings, it says any person filing a permit or other application or RFD, request for determination, right? That's what this is, request for determination, with the Conservation Commission at the same time shall give written notice thereof by certified mail or hand delivered to all abutters in their mailing address shown on the most recent applicable tax list of the assessors. So I am an abutter for this property, and I have never gotten an abutter notification. So to me, it seems like Town of Upton is not following Town of Upton bylaws.
I would mention that for the Town of Upton bylaw for the Wetlands Protection Act, for requests for determination, we do not require the abutters be notified, and we are waiving that.
So says who?
The commission's been waiving that for at least from the inception of the bylaw.
But
Valentine, remember the regs, if you remember correctly, the bylaw does mention the abutter notification, but in the regs, it states that the Conservation Commission is not doing that. So you're correct in that it looks like it's conflicting, but I think the regs are the final say on this matter.
What?
So this is Mike. Also, I think there's a sentence in the actual bylaw which allows the commission to waive the notification requirements, and that's what's allowed us to include that waiver in the regulations. And our first iteration of regulations was in 2009. And we've basically been not requiring notification for an RFD, butter notification for an RFD at least since 2009, probably before then.
So was there a vote by the Conservation Commission to?
We did vote to approve the bylaw regulations at some point. Yes.
No, but was there a vote to waive the notification requirements for this specific notification, for this specific determination?
No, there wasn't, and there doesn't need to be, because our regulations allow us to waive it.
Can you show
and
me
the
where
regulations were improved? The last iteration of regulations, I think, was approved last year, I think. So,
Can you show me where it states that, please? That you can just waive it one time and it's waived forever for every determination?
Well, our past practice has always been to not have that done. It would be overburdensome for the applicant. And that's something that past present practice has always had us doing it that way. And that's so it's not inconsistent with other filings.
Yeah, but if the law is not being followed consistently, doesn't make it legal to not follow the law. Can you show me where's the vote for this specific request for determination to waive notification requirements? Where's that vote?
I'm looking up the regs right now, and I'll share my screen once I find the specific piece. Okay.
Okay.
It may take a little while to find that. So we'll be patient.
Okay, this is the regs. I'm gonna try to zoom in so we can see it better. So this is filing procedure, 2 copies of the request that refers to a request for determination. If you look at the bottom sentence here, it says the commission does not currently require a butter notification for the filing of an RDA, since it is the opinion of the commission that types of projects filed under RDA are typically minor, or conversely will require the filing of an application of a permit, which requires a butter notification.
Okay.
So it specifically states in the regs that it's not required.
So where does in the bylaws does it state that there's some regulation that's above state law and above the town of Upton bylaws? And there was a permit application for this specific project, and it's not a minor project. There was 50 truckloads of soil taken out of this property and 100 truckloads of sand delivered to replace it. So this is not a minor project, and there was a permit application. So if this states that you're not requiring a butter notification because there will be a permit, an application for a permit, which requires a butter notification. So where is that a butter notification in connection with the permit?
All right, so the wording here is, so because we issued a negative determination, that means that there is no requirement to file a notice of intent, which is the more major application, which does require a butter notification. And it's the construction of a single family house. There are no wetland resource areas nearby. So the commission really has no jurisdiction here.
I just don't see how that's related. There is an admission that there was no vote to waive the requirements for notification, but the abutters haven't been notified. So the bylaw is what town of Upton claims home rule on, which means that the town of Upton has additional requirements to the ones that the state has in connection for any permit or request for determination and the bylaws state that any person filing a permit or other application or RFD with the Conservation Commission at the same time shall give written notice thereof to abutters. But that's not being done, and there's no waiver. So why is some regulation being held above town bylaws?
There is a statement in the bylaw which it's somewhat ambiguous, but it does allow the commission to do what we did in the regulations in terms of a butter notification.
What is that?
And the other thing, just please, sir, don't conflate the state regs and the town regs. The state regulations do not require file a butter notification for an RDA.
And the one thing I wanted to add, this is Chris, is this RDA was negative because there's no wetlands in the vicinity of where this project is. So it's a negative. So we would not require them to do anything else other than filing the RDA. And that's the bottom line with this project. And it's not a major project because it's one house in an area which is not in the vicinity of wetlands. So a major project, which would require a notice of intent, would be a subdivision that has wetlands right about next to where the project is. So this does not fall in that at all.
There are wetlands on this same property where this construction is happening. And there are wetland plans throughout this property and still here now.
But the wetlands, as Mary mentioned, are 300 feet away from this project. And the review we had done with a company called Ecotech said there's no wetland soil. So there could be a sporadic wetland plant, but the soil makes it not wetlands.
The soil here was moved right before the Ecotech study was done. And the Ecotech study in itself says that there are predominantly wetland plants on the property. And they were asked to conduct a study based on the Army Corps of Engineers standard, but for some reason they didn't do that. So why didn't they? And why was that allowed?
I visited the site when it was being evaluated, not by Ecotech, but by our agent at the time, Dave Pickart, and
what's the name of the agent?
Dave Pickart.
And how do you spell that?
Former agent.
Pickart.
Dave Pickart. Okay.
At the time we visited the site, no fill had been removed from the areas that we were evaluating. There was native soil there. The only it had been logged, or the trees had been removed. There were still stumps. The wetland vegetation that was noted, it was the reason that we hired Ecotech to take a look at this, was because the wetland vegetation was in these deep ruts that were made when they logged the area, and the ruts, had compacted the soil to the point where the soil was not particularly permeable. In other words, the ruts held water, and that allowed some herbaceous wetland vegetation to become established. It's all in the Ecotech report.
Well, it's not true. That's not true. I can show you pictures of wetland plants right behind where the foundation was poured, and there are wetland plants there on July 9th, and then on August 1st, those plants were ripped out and replaced by sand. If you allow me to share my screen and show you, I'd be happy to show you this.
Yes.
So can you see my screen now? I'm showing screen 3. Can you see the picture?
Yes.
Can you see the plans?
I can't tell for sure what's in the understory, but the trees are pine trees, white pine.
There are some pine trees, but these plants here, these are right here. These are wetland plants. These and these, there are plants here. And then if you look at pictures now, like this one, you see the constructions further along. You see this? They've ripped out the plants that were there and they covered it with sand to hide the wetland plants. Let me go back to July 9th. This is a wetland plant species. And so is this.
What species?
I put it in my in documents. I can send you my what I send. It's in my email to the DEP.
I don't really want to get too deep in the woods here, but
well, this is why we're here. And then look at this picture.
Let me finish. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I happen to be an ecologist with a fair amount of wetland experience. I've delineated wetlands during my career. I've taken wetland delineation courses. Mary also is very up at delineating wetlands, as was Dave Pickart, who had a 30-year or so career as an environmental consultant. You can have plants that are, you can even have wetland plants growing in upland as long as you don't have the predominance of wetland plants. And then there are many plants which are facultative plants, which they can occur either in wetlands or uplands. Looks like you have some kind of a sedge there. I have no idea what kind of a sedge it is. Many sedges are wetland, but there's also many are facultative, or there's even some upland sedges. Just because you have a sedge there, you can't assume that it's a wetland indicator. And in situations where even where the vegetation is somewhat ambiguous, like those tire ruts that were on the property, ultimately the scientists involved will weigh both the soils and the vegetation and the type of disturbance that's gone on, to put all that information together and make a determination. Ecotech, which is a very experienced firm, Art Allen is a soil scientist. He knows his stuff. We specifically asked for him to take a look at it. He looked at it. His opinion was it's not a wetland. Okay, not wetland. It's kind of like case closed in terms of that, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's not a case closed for me, and I can assure you of that. Right here in his documentation, it says we were asked to look at the area under the U.S. Army Corps difficult wetland situation criteria. So who asked him to look at the area under this criteria? Was it the conservation department? Because he didn't. He says that it's not a difficult wetland situation. The vegetation, in our opinion, took advantage of a clear area which had significant rainfall from last summer through this past spring. But the wetland plants species are mostly pioneer vegetative species which took advantage of the unnaturally wet conditions during the past year. So there were not unnaturally wet conditions. I've owned the property next door for 10 years, and that lot has always been flooded. It always had flood water coming from the Bear Hill and the Pinecrest, and there was always water there. You could, in the summer, in the hottest summer, in August, you go in there, stick a shovel, and the water would be perking right out. They built the house here. Have you seen how high the foundation of the house is? It's at the level of the ground. It doesn't go down by even 1 foot. The foundation is actually above ground. So why would you build a house above ground and not have any basement or any cellar there? There's nothing going into the ground. It's built above ground. Why? Because the water level is so high, it gets completely flooded. And those wetland plans there, it is a difficult wetland situation area because the lot has always been flooding. Why would you build a house above the ground if there wasn't flooding there? Of course there was. So if Ecotech was asked to look at the area under U.S. Army Corps difficult wetland situation criteria, they're saying that they didn't. Why weren't they held to that?
May I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
Could you scroll up? I don't believe this is the Ecotech report, is it? This is the report from the
commission
applicant's consultant. It's not the Ecotech report.
This is what's in the requested determination.
Go back. Dave Crossman was the owner's consultant. He wrote what you just showed us, not our consultant.
Okay.
Not Ecotech. Okay. So, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. We did our due diligence. We hired a well-respected expert to take a look at this for us. He came out. His opinion was it was not a wetland. I don't know what else to tell you. The other thing is one other line of evidence. I don't remember exactly what the number was, but when they had to do testing for the septic system. They did a deep hole test and perk testing. And Mary, I don't know if you have it handy, but I think the deep hole didn't see models, in other words, evidence of high groundwater until something like 30 inches or something like that. So that's another line of evidence that suggests that this was not a wetland. If you don't see modeling until 30 inches deep, it's not a wetland.
One thing I wanted to add was on Christian Hill Road, which is quite close to East Street, there are at least 8 houses that were built, and they're all up above because there's high groundwater there. But they were able to build there, and they had to raise everything up because the groundwater is high. So their septic system are all raised septic system. So it's not unusual to have an area which has high groundwater, have a house built there. And I agree with what Mike said, that we did do our due diligence to look at this lot before it was permitted. And we're doing it again. And we had Judy Smith with the DEP also review this and made the suggestion that we reopen this hearing with a public notice properly done, so that way it can be open and then discussed.
Okay, so whose due diligence was it to make sure that the ad in the newspaper was published?
It was ours, and we have proof that it was published for this meeting. And unfortunately, a year ago, we did file with the newspaper to publish it, but unfortunately, they did not send us a confirmation of that. So
right. So the due diligence to make sure that there was a notice published prior to conducting the vote, that due diligence wasn't done, correct?
And this is why we're correcting it now. And I just want to mention, about the bylaws and the regs, and thank you for bringing this up. We are going to put a motion before a town meeting to amend the bylaw so that there is no confusion at all, just so that it'll be clear as day, and someone like yourself won't get confused as to what the intent of the law is.
Right, but currently the bylaws do require notification to abutters, and there is no vote to waive them.
The bylaw, and you have to find the text, Mary, but the bylaw is, it's somewhat ambiguous, but it does allow the commission to waive the need for abutter notification, and we use that statement in the bylaw, in the bylaw to, when we wrote the wetland regulations. So,
Well, it's right here, and it's not
okay.
conflicting or ambiguous. It's notice of a hearing. It says it right here.
Okay,
Any
well,
person filing a permit or other application.
Thank you for coming up with this paragraph. Read the last sentence, please. The commission
Okay.
shall have the discretion to waive any of the above notification requirements.
Any
The commission shall have
Yep.
discretion to, in other words, we have the discretion to waive the need for notification for a request. And that's the basis of the regulations that Mary showed you before.
But did the commission waive the requirements for this specific notification for this specific request
No,
of determination?
we did not. And that Mary said that we're going to kind of clean this up a little bit because it's could be clearer than it is.
Uh-huh.
And that's the change that would be made at town meeting. I mean, it is, it's clear enough to me that that our bylaws comply with this, but it could be clearer still.
But when this determination request was made, the notice for hearing was still in the bylaws, and it's still here now. So why were the abutters not notified, and why are they not notified now?
Because
and this is the section in the state law that requires notification. So you're going to create another conflicting bylaw that's going to conflict with Massachusetts state law, because in state law it says, in cases where notice of public hearing is required, notice shall be given by publication in newspaper of general circulation, city or town, once in each of 2 successive weeks. Okay.
Well,
and
you've brought that up before. I think maybe we need it, like Mary suggested, we'll go to the DEP and just I suspect that the Wetlands Protection Act kind of supersedes that for these kinds of permits.
It doesn't.
Let me finish. Well,
go ahead.
I've said enough.
And at this point, we now have the request for determination properly advertised, and you're here to witness this as well. So I don't see the point that we're not going to go forward with this.
Well, it's not properly advertised. It doesn't meet state law. It doesn't. It's the abutters are not notified. The state law requires the abutters to get notification of the public hearing.
At this point, the commission can decide what it wants, but we can make our decision to reissue the negative determination as we did last year. You have the right to appeal the state portion, as you did before, to the DEP. If you have concerns about the town bylaw, you would have to bring it to court and file a court case.
Well, I already have, but I don't want to bring the town as a defendant in this case, because it's only going to hurt the taxpayers. So I don't want to have the judge cannot issue orders against the town because the town is not a party. And I don't want to make the town the party to this lawsuit, because it's only going to hurt the taxpayer, because the taxpayers are the ones who are going to pay for it. And
what was the result of the August 1st injunction?
It's taken under advisement by the judge. So we're waiting if the judge will issue an order to stop construction and an order to conduct an independent study. I'm also asking the applicant is not here. My understanding is that they have to be at this hearing. They didn't show up, and you have. I believe that you have So here's what's going to happen. If there is a conflict in notice requirements, I will appeal, and it's going to go through the appeal process. And I don't want to bring the town into this lawsuit as a defendant, but if there is a misunderstanding as to who should be notified, there's clearly something in the bylaws that states that abutters have to be notified, and I see that in the bylaws. And usually, I think that the Conservation Commission is just going to create more possibilities for, if you make a decision today, for that decision to be disputed, and then it's going to have to go back again to be notified. So if the Conservation Commission votes today for a negative determination, but later somebody again determines that a state requirement for notification or a town requirement as to the bylaws is not met or today, then it's going to have to go back again into the reset mode where everything starts all over again. And I don't know, does the Conservation Commission really want that? How difficult is this to notify abutters and put an ad in a newspaper 2 weeks ahead? Bam, you've met all the requirements, and then nobody can say that something wasn't done properly. Why such a rush? Why take this risk?
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to jump in. Christos Katroubis here. I'm the lawyer for New Generation Custom Homes Corp. I'm sorry for jumping on late. I just received the email from my client. So I just wanted to clarify when Mr. Komorowski said that petitioner was not present. I just wanted to make that clear that I am here on their behalf. And nice to meet you all.
Okay. Hello.
Thank you. So, Christos, what can you add to our discussion?
What could I add? That's a good question, Christine. I think I think that the conversation about the notice of what happened a year ago has been moved. I mean, that's what the Mass DEP has said, and you reissued notice and reopened the hearing. So here we are. Mr. Komorowski's here. I don't see why. I mean, it sounds like this could be discussed all night, which is surprising, but it is what it is. The notice was sent out properly this time. The hearing has been reopened. We are here. I think if you look at the spirit of when you're talking about notice requirements and it's about having the opportunity to participate in a hearing, and here we are. We've got the participation. It's not as if there was a hearing that went forward. This hearing went forward today, and Mr. Komorowski didn't get notice of it and thus did not have the opportunity to participate. So I think that disposes of that issue. Rehashing what happened a year ago, it's not useful, and it has no bearing on anything because it was reopened by the DEP. So that's our position on that. In terms of what's happening in the court case, I did hear Mr. Komorowski say that there was no order from the court on the motions for injunctive relief. That's accurate. That's true. There are additional submissions that need to be filed by this Friday, and then my understanding, I wasn't at the hearing, but my understanding is that there was no set date as to when we would receive a decision from the court on those motions. So I can't provide any further information about that. But I do know that at least that piece was correct, that the judge has taken those motions under advisement.
Okay, thank you. So, Mary, where do you see us going from here?
I think it is legitimate if you guys would like to close the hearing and reissue the determination. If you would like to be cautious and have us consult town council, we can do that too.
What do the commission members feel? Just say your name and your comment from the commission.
This is Marcella. I see no real harm in giving it a bit of a wait, unless there's some pressure from the folks doing the construction that they are under some constraints, the time constraints that they need to get things moving. Taking another couple of weeks to see if we can get some comments from town council or get more information regarding the decision of the court on this. I just as soon wait if that's, something we can reasonably do.
Thank you. How about Mike?
Good night. Sorry, this is Jose Moraes here. Sorry, it's under my son's name. I'm just using his computer right now. I just got notice of this meeting. But I just heard, I think Marcella saying, if there's no problem with the construction, there is problem with the construction because there's a line of work that we need to meet and there's things to be done. And we have been held from some of it already, waiting for this meeting. And if as I could hear, if you all think that reissuing that permit, it's the right thing to do. Waiting a little more, or sometimes, depending on how you see it, a lot more, it's a problem for me. It's gonna, result in expenses, people that have that are holding material for me on their warehouse, that's going to probably start charging me rent for this because they need they have due dates to deliver a bunch of material that was bought and they're waiting to deliver, waiting for me to get on specific steps of the construction to deliver those pieces. And if we have to wait too much more, I'm going to start paying rent and stocking fees for these people. Just want to give you a heads up.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
This is Tom Django, Commission member. I think we should vote on this. I am comfortable that everything we did with Ecotech, et cetera, that this is not a wetland. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know anything about any of that, but I'm comfortable that this was not a wetland and I'm comfortable voting on it now.
Thank you, Tom. Now, can I ask the person who just spoke on the screen says Arthur? Can you
Jose Moraes, sorry. It's under my...
Can you state your name and spell it for our secretary, please?
Yeah, my name is Jose, Jose, Moraes, last name Moraes, Moraes, Jr.
Okay, thank you.
I'm the homeowner, just to be clear. New Generation is the company I hired to build the house, and Christos is on their behalf here now. But I'm the homeowner, the lot owner, and the person that's going to be living there.
Okay, thank you.
And I think if I could add to that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just to remind everyone that this is the construction of a single family home for Mr. Maurice and his wife and 2 kids. This isn't, the construction of a car wash or something like that can wait. This is, when we talk about a sense of urgency, there is. Now, if there's a concern about whether or not injunctive relief is going to come down, but we don't know when that's going to happen, if at all. I mean, at this point in time, if there's an emergency motion for injunctive relief and you're before the court, and there is in fact an emergency, the court has the opportunity to issue it from the bench right then and there, and that hasn't happened.
Okay,
so at least that can, Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members from the commission would like to speak?
Yes, this is Sandy LaJoy. I'm a member. I just feel that if we continue this hearing, it's not going to have any effect on our decision on this project. As a request for determination, we just opened it for procedural purpose. I think we fulfilled our procedural purpose, amended actually the paper's error. And I think that we should just close the hearing.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. Anyone else from the commission? I would like to speak. This is Christine Scott. I reiterate what Marcella, Tom, and Sandy have stated, that we've corrected the error that we had in advertising the ad from a year ago, and everything else is in order. So I do believe that we should move forward. Anyone else from the commission?
This is Alan. I agree that we should move forward and close the hearing.
Excellent. So from the commission, do we have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris Scott, aye.
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
Sandy, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I.
Now that's a unanimous vote of the members present. And so we will issue the negative determination, and Mary will get in touch with you, Jose, when that's done, and then we will move forward. And we appreciate everyone's comments.
Yep. One more question, if you don't mind. Would the commission be willing to allow access to the property for an independent evaluation by a scientist and a hydrologist?
We don't have that ability, but you'd have to ask the owner of the property for that.
Well, actually, the judge said that I should be asking the commission for this. She said that the commission has the authority to request an independent review that I would pay for as an abutter, and the commission can order the lot owner at 24 East Street to allow access to the property for such an independent study. This is what was said in court. So would the commission be willing to do that?
Isn't that what Ecotech did?
Yep.
Yes, you could make that case. Also, the hearing has been closed. So.
Well, I'm not asking a question in regards to a hearing. I'm asking if...
Well, yeah, but the hearing has been closed. Okay, so, and we closed it without any discussion about having another soil or wetland scientist evaluate the property. Hearing's closed.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks.
You too. Thank you. Okay, so we have at 8 o'clock discussion about Governor's Landing, public hearing, closed discussion of the conditions. So Mary, do you want to take this away?
Sure. I put together some draft conditions and I'll bring them up in a minute, but I can tell you there were a few sticking points, I believe. I had forwarded them along to Patrick Garner and Sean Malone. So I think you guys were okay with most of it. The concerns were the number of vernal pools that were going to be monitored. And the other concern was the number of years that the monitoring would go on. And you guys can start mentioning that while I find the document. Okay.
So for the number of vernal pools.
One comment that was made was that the vernal pools that we were going to be monitoring as as a guidance for how this particular vernal pool was going to be, how it was going to end up surviving this process. They were off-site, and I thought that was a valid concern. They don't necessarily have the same hydrology or the same environment. How do we make a comparison between the vernal pool on this site, which seems like a unique site with a unique type of vernal pool, and monitor vernal pools that may not have the same qualities.
I think
I can try to answer that a bit. Is Patrick on? I don't see him as a.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. This is Sean Malone from Oak Consulting Group. Unfortunately, Patrick was not able to be here tonight. He had an emergency tonight.
Okay.
But just if I can kind of try to recap what I recall, the discussion last meeting was, I think there was some agreement that 2 nearby pools would are similar.
That was not an agreement. Okay.
Well, the discussion.
There was a discussion, absolutely.
Right.
But it
Yeah,
was not
I'm
an
not.
agreement.
Right. Sorry. Apologize. But that was the discussion that two reference pools would be sufficient in Pat's point of view, and certainly find those 2 that have similar hydrology and topographic location as our pool. So that was our only comment on that. Rather than the 3, if we could do the 2, as Pat kind of made some comments last time.
Well, this is Mike. I would to speak a little bit to what Marcella said. That is somewhat of a valid concern that they have, but there aren't any other vernal pools on site that we can consider monitoring. And even if there was a vernal pool close by on site, it's possible that construction impacts, either the blasting or clearing of vegetation, could impact that pool too. I mean, obligate vernal pool species can travel quite a distance from their upland or forested wetland habitat to vernal pools. So, and whatever it is, I mean, if there was one on site, we could consider using it, but there isn't. The commission has a number of different conservation areas where there are vernal pools. Some of them are certified. One of them is actually a metacomet land property. That's the Kerr Preserve, and that's the only one that the commission knows of at this point, which is perched, similar to the Governor's Landing pool, which is basically near the top of the hill, most likely perched on bedrock. The Kerr Preserve vernal pool is similar in that it appears to be perched. One issue with that pool, however, is that it hasn't been certified. No one's actually, studied it to see that, whether or not it is actually providing habitat for wood frogs or other obligates. But in terms of hydrology, that one is the best we can come up with at this point. Maybe there's some others that are as good or better, but right now that's the best one that is known. And the reason for, press wasn't too articulate, and maybe I'm still not being very articulate, but the reason for doing 3 is that, imagine you have a case where, just a generic case where you've got your pool, your vernal pool, which is subject to construction impacts, and you're monitoring 2 pools, other pools, trying to compare what's going on with the impacted pool with 2 reference pools. What if one reference pool shows an impact and the other does not? Where are you? Okay. The reason for asking for 3 is, you'd at least have a third pool, which would, be the arbiter kind of between the other 2 pools. So, if I was designing this, as a scientist, I would ask for 3 pools, or propose 3 pools. rather than
I'm gonna-
two. I mean, we can, the commission can certainly go with two, if they want to do that. But I think adding a third pool is not an unreasonable ask.
Hey, Mike, can I mention, what about the vernal pool off of North Street? That's kind of up towards the top of the hill. And it drains out. Now, it's nowhere near this pool, but it is an elevated vernal pool. Does that make sense or not? I mean,
Yeah,
it's not easy to
I'm
get
not
it.
sure I know the pool you're talking about, but
Well, you know where your property is, right? The property that you purchased off of North Street.
oh, the
And if you
right at
just,
the corner of North Street Mechanic, kind of.
yeah, but if not,
Yeah, that's on
Kinda.
private. That's on private property.
oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, it is. So the ones that are listed here. Kerr Preserve is a Metacomet Land Trust property. All the rest are town properties, and there are certified vernal pools at Taft Mill Open Space. Scott Pine certified that one, and where else is there certified vernal pool? At the Mechanic Street property. And that Mechanic Street vernal pool, there's an awful lot of bedrock on that property, so it might not be a bad analog. But I think the best analog that's on public property is probably the Kerr. And I did ask someone who's done a lot of vernal pool certification on state forest if he had any Upton State Forest land, if he had any thoughts, and he couldn't think of a perched vernal pool at Upland State Forest offhand. So, I mean, we don't have to decide exactly which pool to use at this point, or which pools. I guess the question is 2 or 3.
My understanding is that one of the concerns is the cost of monitoring a third pool. What exactly is that cost?
I'm not sure I can speak to the exact cost of it, but it is, the time and of people, going out there. And I think one of Pat's other concerns was, you've identified 2 that are similar as ours, which makes sense. It may be difficult to find a third, and then kind of to the point that was made earlier, if you find a third that's not in a similar situation, and that one then is giving different readings, where does that kind of leave you?
So if I may, maybe I was misunderstood. We really have one right now that is a pretty good analog, and that's the one at Kerr.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only one that mm-hmm. is almost clearly perched hydrologically. If we can come up with some other ones, that would be great. But right now, all the rest on town property, either are clearly not perched or, we're not sure about them.
Yeah.
And probably leaning towards most of the rest of them not being perched.
But I think I did hear that the Mechanic Street pool there's a lot of bedrock there, so that could be a similar good comparison.
Might be, yeah. I mean, if I had to, at some point, you folks are going to submit a monitoring plan to mm-hmm. us, and that we can discuss, work out these details. But yeah, Mechanic Street one I think would be a reasonable choice, and Taft Mill, and they're already both certified, so you don't have to worry about going out there and not finding wood frogs, most likely. They've been certified, which is an advantage too. So anyway.
There's also a question as to how long the monitoring should take place, whether it's 5 years, 2 years, something mm-hmm. in between.
Well, I wish Patrick was on, because I was planning to ask him why he thinks 2 years is adequate.
Yeah, I don't think it is. So
Yeah, I don't think it's, just this based on basic life history of wood frogs. Females wood frogs breed after 2 to 3 years. Males maybe breed a little sooner than that. Wood frogs live for 4 to 5 years. I mean, if we only monitor 2 years, we really haven't had an opportunity to look at impacts on the next generation of wood frogs. After 2 years, you could still just have a residual population, even if the vernal pool that you're studying isn't producing new wood frogs, basically. Mary, do you have that metric sheet? Can you call that up? Yeah, I drafted this up and shared it with Mary, a draft with Mary, but not the commission. And just this, by metrics, I mean, if we're going to do this monitoring, how are we going to evaluate whether or not there was an impact? For wood frog, I could think of three life history related metrics. One would be just the number of egg masses in the pool, or the presence or absence of egg masses, the number of egg masses, and whether or not the pool exists long enough to allow basically a fully adapted tadpole to be present. And by that I mean a tadpole that's got 4 legs and is about ready to go out into the world outside the pool. Then the other metric, I know spot salamanders aren't found here, but they could be found in other vernal pools, the reference pools. Then, to me, one of the most important metrics is the hydro period. How long is the vernal pool can hold water into the spring and early summer? If there's going to be an impact, a hydrologic impact caused by blasting, that probably, that could be very evident. In terms of monitoring frequency, I think one compromise might be to monitor for 3 years, and then once we have that data, make a decision whether additional monitoring is needed.
If I may, Mr. Penko's suggestion sounds reasonable to me with that.
Any other comments from the commission or Mary?
I think Mike's recommendation sounds pretty good.
And just to clarify that, probably there will be a period of a couple of years where construction is going on. So the 3 years would be after the completion of the road construction, is how it's written on here.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
One other thought about conditions. Maybe one of the conditions should say that the commission has authority to continue monitoring, if we choose to. It will be private property, but it may be that, just as a study site, this might be an interesting site to monitor longer than we require the applicant to monitor.
And we would have no issue with that. And just as a point, this vernal pool is going to be as part of it within the dedicated open space. So that certainly would be reasonable.
Any other comments or questions from the commission?
I think the commission needs to or maybe they don't need to, but maybe still not sure on the 2 or 3 reference pools. And then I do have a few other comments on some of the other conditions.
What do people think about 2 or 3 pools?
I like the idea of 3, more data gives us more to work with.
I agree with Marcella that 3 would be good as well. And I'm sure over the time frame that this project is being constructed, we'll have time to identify what all 3 of them are. Any other questions, Mary? What did you have for us?
I just had a question about bounds. So I think probably the commission would want bounds delimiting the edges of the open space. And the question is, does the commission also want bounds at any of the buffer zones along the wetland? There's no place that it's terribly close, but there is work certainly within the 100 foot. So the question is, does the commission want bounds in those areas? And how does the engineer feel about putting together a plan showing the bounds?
Yeah, so just to clarify, we're talking about condition number 31. So I think that's reasonable. It'll be just part of like kind of a CR plan basically, and having the bounds on there. The one thing, just wordsmithing, marking the limit of disturbance, but we want to do the preserved area, the open space area. The disturbance might be actually a little inward of that.
Right, yeah, there's 2 things you could be marking. Certainly the open space area needs to be marked, and that I think is condition 33. And then 31 is kind of more focusing on where in the buffer zone. And maybe because a lot of places you're further back, I believe, than the 30-foot line. So maybe we need to, have the bounds as far out as they can go. I think there may be a few places where you're kind of close into the 30 or the 50, and those might be spots where bounds would go. And whether the commission wants to see, there's a lot of areas where the development isn't terribly near the wetland, and whether you would want to mark the 100-foot line there, or maybe it wouldn't need to be marked. So, because it's in open space already. And I guess we could pull up, there's a plan showing the buffer zones if you guys want to, or we can just agree that this is something to be reviewed at a later date. If we're okay with that. Yeah, if people are set with that. The only other thing is, and Sean, I don't know whether you've had experience with this, the SWIP, there's usually a SWIP inspector, but I know in the other town I was with, we required an independent person to do the erosion control inspections once a week, or, it could be a different time period or after rainstorms. Just so that's this commission hasn't, this is the first commercial project we're really permitting, so I haven't brought it up with them before. I'm not sure that that's something that you guys want. I don't know if people had a chance to read my email earlier, with Cobbler's Creek, the SWIP reports, they did a great job on the SWIP reports for the first 6 months. And then the people who were doing them, were called off to another site because they're road contractors. And then no one was really in charge of the erosion controls after that. And so if you do have an independent monitor, then they're always in there and they have an independent source. So
yeah, and if I may, Mary, that's something that we've done actually quite often. We'll have someone, like Ecotech or Goddard, or maybe it's Pat Gardner, who's hired to do the SWIP inspections every week and then submit those reports to not only the contractor and us, but the commission as well. So
Yeah.
that's typical these days.
Yeah.
With respect to the previous conversation, maybe, you know, I'm just looking at the plan. There's a few areas. There's very few areas of the 50, if
You
any.
can share your screen if you want.
Yeah, I'm trying to just let me try to do this here. Share. Great, thank you. So this is the 50 in here. All of the 50 is within the open space. So that would be bounded already. There's and a lot of the 100 is within it. There's some areas, you know, that, you know, just get outside of it. So I don't know. I guess I would have to defer to the commission, but I'm feeling that if we bound the open space, we'd really capture, you know, the essence and the intent of demarcating that area as, you know, no further expansion or anything like that to protect those buffers.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I agree.
And is the open space, do we have a sense, is that going to go to the town, or is it going to be held in conservation restriction by some other group?
Yeah, I don't think that's been determined yet. It will have a restriction on it. So I think we'd probably need to discuss that further, whether it's the Conservation Commission, whether it's, I don't know if it even can be the homeowners association or how you usually do that. But I think that, you know, if the commission wanted to hold the restriction, I think that wouldn't be an issue.
At Rockwood Meadows, I don't know if you're familiar with that one, on East Street in Upton. The homeowners association owns the open space, and the restrictions held by Upton, and there's actually some land in Hopkinton, which is the CR there is held by the land trust in Hopkinton Area Land Trust. So that's certainly a model that could be applied here.
Yeah, I could see something similar here. Yes. I did have one question on a different condition, if I may. I think this is one of the newer ones.
Sure.
It was condition number 30. And just there was a typo. You had reference C104. It's actually 504.
Okay. Thank you.
But the question I have is, it's written indicate the substrate within the tunnel. We can clarify that. But the potential for need of lighting as approved by a consultant hired by the commission. We added some openings in the culvert roof, you know, to let the light and moisture in. Is that what we're talking about, or are we talking about like electricity?
I'm somewhat responsible for that condition, and you know, I think if it's going to be something like a skylight, you know, that would be fine.
Okay.
Rather than artificial lighting. I just don't, you know, I'm nowhere near an expert on this stuff, and I know there's probably someone out there who could tell us what the best substrate is to have in the tunnel, and I think I'd like us to have the opportunity. I think it would benefit everybody, both you and us, to to give it the best shot and get the best substrate in there possible based on other experiences elsewhere.
Sure. Yeah. No,
But yeah, I mean, if there is some some skylights basically in the tunnel, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. And I'm just sharing my screen, and this was one of Dave's comments that we added. We added these openings. It's basically a catch basin grate with an opening here, basically every quarter. There's one here in the middle of the roadway, and then one here, and then we have the openings on either side to provide the light. And that's on the plans that would be referenced in your order.
Mm-hmm.
That looks good because it's more natural. I don't think the wildlife would like electrical lights.
A little humming, buzzing.
No, I know I wouldn't like them myself.
Find the maintenance.
I think the only other comment, again, it's a nitpicky. I talk to Jeff Roloffs, our attorney, too often. But there's just some references to 50% of the lots. We're not subdividing. This is all going to be one lot. So maybe it wants to be units or buildings, something like that. They're all duplex buildings, so it's kind of one of the same.
Oh yeah, I can fix that. That's under the ones talking about a CR, right? And
yes.
yeah, baseline documentation report. Yep.
And actually, I lied. I did have one other thing. So, number 45. So we're showing the trails on the plan. They're based on I think some GIS information where the existing trails are, and we're just kind of connecting the dots. I can foresee these changing, meandering a little bit different to preserve a tree or something. We're certainly not going to be wanting to cut down trees to create the trail. So just want to make sure that we have the flexibility in creating these trails to create it the right way and not have to be rigid in, the plan showed it in this spot,
I agree. Let's fix the wording there. We don't want to be cutting down trees that we don't have to be.
No.
I'll try to think of a way to fix that.
But that was all my comments. I thought everything in the order looked good to us.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Or the audience? I know in the past with trails, if they're not outlined in advance, there's a little bit of a concern with the public in other projects that we had before that they weren't clear of where the trails would be.
Yeah, we'd like to make sure that the trails are in place and marked in plenty of, time before people start moving in, and have surprises where people are using the trails where they feel like it's their private property. So that has been an issue with other parcels. So as long as we can make sure that the trails are well established and people understand that when they purchase a parcel or a unit, they know that they're going to be seeing other people around.
Mm-hmm. And that'll all probably be within the condominium bylaw as well. Again, it's all one parcel. It's going to be governed by a homeowners association. So there will be some, obvious disclosure. They'll get copies of these plans and, the order of conditions and things like that.
That's great. And we've always made an effort to keep the trails as far from the homes as possible so that there's as little impact on the residents as possible.
Any questions or comments, Mary, that you need us to address today?
No, I think we're good. John, I realized I don't have the most up-to-date paper copies of the plans. So if you got, and I can email you too on that, but, and I just probably need one set. I don't need two. And I don't need another, I don't need another copy of the stormwater report. I'm okay with the online one for that.
All right. So we'll get you a full size paper set printed up and sent down to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, no problem.
Mary, would you like a motion to issue the order with the edits that have been discussed?
Yeah, I think that's good. Then I can go ahead and get that out.
Okay, would you like to make a motion, Mike? And Mike, you
You're
are
muted, Mike.
Sorry, folks. I can make the motion, but we really haven't made a final determination on 2 or 3 polls. We might want to do that first and then have the motion. But I don't know, Chris, could you just poll the members whether you want 2 or 3 reference polls?
2 or 3 reference pools. Let's hear from the commission members. You can say, do you want 2 or 3?
Alan, 3.
Sandy, 3.
Chris Scott, 3.
Marcella, 3.
Mike, 3.
Yeah, Tom, 3.
It's a unanimous vote of the commission that 3 vernal pools will be used for reference.
Okay, so then I'd make a motion that the commission issue the order of conditions with the edits that have been discussed during this meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Press Scott, aye.
Tom, aye.
Alan, I.
Sandy, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, aye.
That's a unanimous vote of the commission members present. And I would assume that Mary will get this out in a timely fashion.
Yes.
And let you know, Sean, when it's ready.
All right, terrific. Well, once again, I thank you all for your time and consideration of this project, and we're looking forward to moving forward and having a successful project.
Okay, great, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night. Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, so if we go back to Mary's administrator's report.
Barry, I'm just going to share my screen. So this is going back to the 11 Hartford Ave discussion with the bounds. And now this is my report showing the improperly placed bounds. You can see the new addition right here. This bound is right on the wetland edge. That bound is right on the wetland edge. And here again is the addition, and you're kind of standing near the edge of the wetland, but not exactly there. So I believe that when they move the bounds 30 feet in, I didn't find the report with that pictures, but I think it's like here and here and here. So they do still have some backyard. It's not like we're taking the whole thing, but they did lose 30 feet of what they were mowing. And as I said before, the people who, it's a kind of a multi-generational household now. The grandparents were fine with it, of course, but the one person living in here, the original owner, had concerns. So those are the pictures. and I probably have pictures of where the new ones are. This swing set here, I believe if you move them in, the bound was like right near this swing set, and they weren't happy about that because they have a child who's using the swing set. But the swing set, I was fine with it, leaving the swing set kind of where it was.
Do you have comments about the placement of the bounds?
This is Bill. I did check the near map historical imagery, and it looks to me like they have been clearing to the stream since 2014. So,
yeah.
Is there any concern around clearing that, like right up to the stream? Maybe they'd be willing to like give 5 feet of, letting it naturalize alongside the stream.
Yeah, I'm certainly, I think I'll give him a call, see what he says, and say that commissions, well, first probably I'll try to write the letters to the neighbors.
Yeah.
I've done that. And then, talk about.
Some logical compromise.
Yeah.
Maybe just have 2 bounds, one on each side instead of the
Yeah.
one by the swing set or something.
Yeah.
Whatever you work out with them will be fine.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. It's that one. Great, back to my agent report. I did witness test pits at 0 Main Street where the Lobusar apartment project is going to go in. And this was a new experience for me, but I learned a lot and interesting to look at the soils there. So he did say when talking with the engineer, he says they are, even though they're not required to, they are going to file a notice of intent with us. So I was happy to hear that. So the commission will have some review on this project, even though they wouldn't have to. So that is good news. I was out at looking at 17 School Street, and owner was there. So we had a good conversation on how to deal with this situation here. This is 146 Westboro Road, one of the, those 5 lots that were approved about a year ago. The first lot is going to be, you'll see some construction there. This is lot 5. It's out there for erosion control inspection. And I went to visit Five Fork Farms, and this is what the pond looks like as of Monday. But everything looked really, he's doing a good job, I think, with keeping the water on site and not a lot of erosion. My one concern, and I think maybe I should call him, is this is kind of where the pool meets the intermittent stream, and the stream's flowing right along here. And it continues to flow down kind of into the grass and disappears. I don't think there's no siltation going downstream at all because the stream has so much vegetation in it. There's not really a channel. But in this area, I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air as to whether he needs to install something kind of between the pond and the stream. There's dirt over here anyway. I don't know. There's certainly nothing going on downstream. He is in the stream, and we knew he would have to be. So it's kind of my only thoughts there. And this is kind of his impromptu water detention area, which seems like it's doing a good job. There's nothing going down the hill. So he's doing a very good job of keeping things on site.
Do they have an end date, or do they not want to be that committed?
Yeah, I did. I didn't talk to Jim, who's, kind of the project manager here. I saw some of his guys on site, and I asked him about the progress. He's like, "Oh, we don't know." Some of it, they're having trouble with machinery. Yeah, I don't know how much they've been working there. But
Yeah, well, it's not critical, but I know that it just delays Grace's ability to do planting and do the farm stuff she needs to do.
that's right. Yeah.
Where's that giant pile of dirt gonna go?
I think that's all the topsoil that he's stockpiling, and that's going to have to go back over because he pulled all the topsoil off that whole open area.
I know, it was such a shock
Yeah.
when you actually see what. I mean, we understand and everything looks good, but when you drive by, you go, "Oh my goodness,
It's a lot of dirt, isn't it?
it's a lot of dirt."
Yeah.
A lot of rocks too.
I'm
Yeah.
with
Whoa.
Marcella. I wonder when it'll be done. Get it closed up.
I think that also might depend on our weather. If we keep having this much rain and stuff, their work might be delayed.
Yeah, so I think that is it for my report.
Excellent, thank you. How about administrative report, Grace?
Actually, this is Bill. I have a question about Five Fork Farm. We had some discussion about the wall and whether or not it was going to have to be changed in any way. What's the status? Do you know?
The wall is still standing there, and it looks like the stream is flowing through it as it has been. So I think they're planning on trying to work with that and leave it the way it is. They haven't disturbed the wall. Yeah. So, but of course they're not done. Clearly, they're not done.
There's been no disturbance yet. And
There's
they
been no
might be able
disturbance.
to continue to have it flow through it or under it or whatever.
Yeah, it seems the stream still seems to be flowing.
All right. Thank you.
Excellent. How about Grace?
Yeah, I've got one more question about Five Forks too, Mary. Could you ask him, what kind of a cover crop they're going to probably plant over this fall once they do get everything regraded? Just curious what their plans. They might be able to do something like winter wheat. Even something that's going to germinate under cool conditions. But just curious what they're thinking.
Yeah, so I'll ask them about the wall too and find out what's going on with that. If they have any further thoughts.
Any other questions or comments about Five Fork Farm? Okay, thank you, Mary. And Grace, how about your administrative report?
First, we have 2 sets of minutes to approve. The first one is December 14th, 2022, and then the previous meeting, July 26th, 2023.
Okay, do you have any comments about the first 7 minutes? I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes with the comments, the corrections as noted.
So moved.
Give a second.
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris Scott, aye.
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
Sandy, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, aye.
Okay, that's a unanimous vote of the commission members present. And Grace, how about the second set of minutes? Do we have any comments or discussion?
Chris, just a note, you had sent out some suggested edits that I have not applied yet, but I will apply those before submitting them to the website.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes as amended with the changes for the website.
So moved.
How about a second?
Second,
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris Scott, aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, aye.
Sandy, I.
Marcella, I.
Do we have Tom and Mike?
I was an I, Chris.
Oh, okay, thank you. How about Mike?
You're muted, Mike.
So that's a majority of the fish members present to accept the minutes. And how about anything else, Grace?
Let me share my screen.
I just unmuted myself. Sorry. I'm having an issue, but yes, I vote yes on those minutes.
Okay, that's a unanimous vote of the commission members present to approve the minutes as amended. How about financial update?
We have 2 sets of expenses to approve tonight. This is the first one. A bill from Koopmans. Hold a second. This is the second.
I make a motion, we pay our bills.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second,
Let's do a voice vote. Chris Scott, aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, aye.
Sandy, I.
Mike, I.
Marcella, I.
Okay, that's unanimous vote of the commission to pay our bills. Thank you, Grace. And how about open space committee?
I also have a balance sheet to present. Sorry, Chris.
Oh, this one. Does anyone have questions about the balance sheet? Hearing none, thank you, Grace. Okay, now open space committee.
Yep, this is Bill. I participated in a conference call yesterday between the Department of Conservation and Recreation, the town of Westboro, and town of Upton on the land in Westboro and Upton that we've been talking about. And there's a lot, and I'm sorry, SVT also participated. But in any case, there's a lot of interest by all the parties in preserving the 80 acres between Upton and Westboro. The next step, which we're working on now, is to get the various parcels appraised. Sounds like the DCR will bear most, if not all, of the cost of the appraisals. So that's where we stand with that project. And I heard from Gail Mann today. She's going to finish the appraisal of the Reed property in the next 2 weeks. So we'll have some information that we can use for decision-making purposes soon. That's all I have for this evening.
Excellent. Thank you, Bill. And land stewardship committee, Marcella.
Yeah, today, we were over at the open space parcel at Dogwood Drive, and next to number 7, and we put up some medallions to identify the main trail that goes through there. And we also put up a sign with the regs. So hopefully that will help keep people's behavior on the trails and within our regulations. So we are going to need to put signs up as the trails are currently, they dead end at 2 ends. It's sort of like a Y. And the trailhead is on Dogwood Drive. You go in a ways and then it splits. And the 2 splits both dead end. So at least temporarily, we'll need to put some signage up that says you've reached the end of the property, or you can go no further. But in both cases, it looks like there may be opportunities to create kind of a trail that kind of loops back. And I know that Steve Earle was one of the folks who likes to use that area, had proposed creating more of a trail network. So I will ask him to see if he has anything that he can put on a map for us to propose for land stewardship to vote on. So that's what's going on there. We also went and GPSed sections of the proposed trails at the Mechanic Street property and and going into the Steffens parcel to link into that property. And I guess Mike was out today and was doing some more GPSing. So bit by bit, we're getting the trail network there flagged and GPSed and making that progress. That's it for now.
Excellent. Mary, did you have any other comments about Dogwood Drive with Joe and Michael Antonellis?
Nope. I think I said it all earlier. So
okay. Thank you. And there's one thing that I wanted to mention, and Marcella, you can stop me if you want to do this presentation. But Mary, I think in the packet there's something in there about the mosquito control board. And to give you guys a little bit of an update, we're kind of in limbo right now because, okay, looking at option A, B, and there's a C now, because the mosquito control board was set up by the selectmen, so they're the only ones who can alter that. And in the past, the communication was from the Board of Health that they wanted to disband it, but the Board of Selectmen and through Joe said that they're not allowed to do anything because they're not the ones who set it up. So that's where we stand, because Marcella for option A was trying to talk with Maureen Dwinell and request to have the Board of Selectmen restructure the mosquito control board so we can achieve a quorum, because the way it's set up right now, it's almost impossible to have a quorum. So we really cannot move forward. And I know Marcella has tried to get in touch with Maureen Dwinell with no success. So I had a call in to Joe today. I did not hear back from him for this time. So that's where option A kind of is stalled. And when I talked to Joe, he mentioned that the mosquito control board would report to the Board of Selectmen quarterly to let them know what we're doing. And for option B, this one was to present the Conservation Commission that the mosquito control board would be under the Conservation Commission. And this description below was written with information from the Conservation Commission's mission statement and also the mission statement of the Mosquito Control Board. And so I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to read that over. And basically the Conservation Commission would be serving as a liaison between the public and other governmental agencies to protect the natural resources and become an environmental and educational resource for citizens, groups, and organizations, as well as local, state, and federal agencies. And the Mosquito Control Board would be a subcommittee of the Conservation Commission. And at this point, we have a option C, which would be our third option, which in speaking with Joe, he recommended that we wait until the selectmen's meeting the third week of August and then present our information under the public comments period, and then request that the Board of Selectmen would look at evaluating the way they set up the Mosquito Control Board. Because right now, the Mosquito Control Board has a very hard time making a quorum, and we really have no support from the Board of Health at all. So that's why we're kind of taking the lead on this, because the Board of Health has been very absent in any of our meetings at all. They actually have not attended, I think maybe one over the last year and a half. So we're kind of stuck in limbo right now. So, Marcella, anything that you wanted to add? Or correct if I say it wrong?
No, I just don't know how much history people have regarding the Mosquito Control Board. We had formed in order to fill out the state's application to opt out of aerial spraying. That was one of our goals, which apparently we did not qualify for the opt-out. This is not the same thing as the regional mosquito control program, which the town voted not to participate in. We voted on that at a town meeting. This is, should the state need to do spraying statewide or region-wide, there were some possibilities for towns to opt out. Because we have so much wetland in Upton, we did not qualify. So that didn't happen. But we felt like we were able to benefit the town through other means like education, and we looked into monitoring for mosquitoes, which turned out not to be a great option because it was costly, and the state does monitoring. So we decided to, while it wouldn't have been as thorough as hiring someone to come in to do it, we decided not to move forward with it and to go with what the state offered. But we feel like at this point we wanted to maintain the committee so that we could continue to educate the public about managing mosquitoes and doing personal protection. And we'd like to add to that education regarding tick-borne diseases. So that's where we're standing right now. We have not been able to make a decision because of the quorum problem. We have a quorum member of individuals who can make it usually, but the representatives from the Board of Health and the Select Board have not been active, and that has meant that we haven't been able to have a quorum for the most part, and haven't been able to make decisions and move forward. So we recent discussions we've had have led us to talk to Joe, who's one of his suggestions was to see if we could be under the umbrella of the Conservation Commission, and where I think we'd find a lot more support. And I think it would be appropriate, seeing as the mosquitoes are wetlands critters, and protecting our wetlands and making sure that the environment is healthy certainly does fall within our mission, and to provide education and resources is certainly part of what we do. So we're here to see if we can get that support from the commission, and if so, we'd go back to Joe and the select board and move forward with that. So that's I hope I wasn't repeating much of what Chris had said, but that's where we are now.
Oh, good job, Marcella. And one thing to add was we had discussed looking at getting support to build bat houses, because the bats would help take care of the mosquito population. So that could be something like a Boy Scout project. And do we have any questions or comments from the commission? So I think what Marcella said, that we're asking for support from the commission, so we can go back to Joe and say that we could be a subcommittee of the commission, and then we could look at developing our own, I would say, rules for a quorum from the mosquito control board. So I wouldn't be asking the commission to do anything except have us be a subcommittee, and then we would report to you guys as an update every 2 weeks. So Mary, did you have anything that you found out?
I reached out to one group, and they were going to put it on their email blast, but they haven't done it yet. So I haven't heard if any other towns have any experience with this, but that is out there as a question. It may take them a month to get it out. They're not super quick with their questions, but
okay. Any other questions or comments from the commission members?
This is Tom. I missed some of it, but are they asking that we handle the mosquito stuff?
No.
Okay.
No. We don't want to put that on you, but us being a subcommittee of the commission, so that way we can have our quorums and move forward. And the one thing that we had talked about in the past, when we did have a quorum once in a while, was looking into Vectorscape to do some work for us.
So it would be kind of like the commission oversees the open space and land stewardship commissions. The mosquito commission would report as needed to the commission, right, Chris?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because option A would be if the Board of Selectmen still wanted to keep us under them, and then we would report to them quarterly. But we haven't heard back from them.
Yeah, and either way, we need to restructure the commission, the board, just to make sure that the core members can have a quorum and be active. I mean, I can't tell you how many meetings we've had where we couldn't get a quorum and couldn't make decisions to move on educational programs and community community programs that would be beneficial to the process of educating the public. So, I just feel like the Conservation Commission is a more supportive commission to fall under the umbrella of, and also one that might be more responsive to what the mosquito control board's mission is. So while the select board would be fine for us to answer to, I think that the understanding of what we would need to do in relationship to the wetlands is much more relevant under the Conservation Commission.
And to piggyback on to what Marcella said, that she posted a meeting for us to meet tomorrow night, but we know that we only have 3 members who can be there, so that would not be a quorum with our present.
So how do we move forward? Are you asking if the commission wants to
Yeah, I guess I would make
I'm in favor of that. That's fine. Somebody, you got to solve your problem somehow, and that makes sense.
Well, I will make a motion that the Conservation Commission accept the Mosquito Control Board as a subcommittee.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so let's do a voice vote. Chris, Scott, aye.
Aye.
Alan, aye.
Sandy, aye.
Mike, aye.
I chair the Mosquito Control Board. I don't know if it's a matter of conflict, but I'll abstain if that is the case. It seems like we have the support, so that's great.
So we have a unanimous vote of the commission members present, with Marcel's abstention, to have the Conservation Commission support the Mosquito Control Board as a subcommittee. Thank you so much. Hopefully that will solve our major problem.
And we'll be bringing this to Joe and the select board. I am assuming that the select board will have to give their approval as well, since they actually formed this board, and we'll have to okay this process. But having your support is huge. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And Marcella, I will be in touch with Joe tomorrow morning and let him know. So probably at their next meeting of the select board, then they'll have this on their list of items to discuss. So thank you. Now, the one thing I had here is the state ethics test is here again. So if anyone needs to take it, please take it. I know the link was sent around. And how about ongoing items? Anything under here? Hearing none. Do you have anything else that we need to sign?
Yeah, hi, it's Mike. I sent an email around. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I have a quote for the Warrenbrook watershed sign. The quote is around $1,800, and that would be using Western red cedar, and the sign would be carved up. The cedar boards would be carved with this. Basically, it would replicate this sign that was originally there in about 1995. But it is $1,800. So I just wanted to ask you guys what you thought about that. I think at one point the Land Stewardship Committee voted, but it wasn't that much. It was less than $1,800. The extra cost is red cedar. Western red cedar apparently is really hard to get these days. And you have to pay a bit of a premium for it. The vendor is the same vendor who has carved other signs for the commission. other wooden signs. So, and the other thing I'd say is if we decide to go with a different type of sign, that would probably, based on the cost of peppercorn sign, it would probably be around $1,000 or so for a arguably a less durable sign than the cedar.
Now, Mike, where would the funding for the sign come from?
Well, I think it comes from the Land Stewardship Revolving Fund.
Yeah. Grace,
what
was our balance?
I can pull that back up.
And if any of you are familiar with the signs that we had the same person make, we have them, got one at Stephens, Pixies Park, where else? They're very nice signs. They're well done, handcrafted, and they really complement the trails and the work that we do. I think that it would be nice to remain consistent with those signs and use the same person to do them. And they've held up great. I'm really impressed. The first one I think we put up is at Stephens, and it still looks good. So.
And it looks like we have ample funding for this. So do we have a motion to expend the funds to make this sign?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
Sandy, I.
Like I.
Marcella, aye.
Okay, it's a unanimous vote of the commission members present. Excellent. So what we do need to do is talk about the negative determination for 24 East Street. So, Mary, do you have a copy of what we issued before? I'm sure it would be the same.
Yeah, I do have, I did include a copy in the packet, I believe. And I was just going to do the same thing. It would have new dates, a new issue date, and probably some note as to why, why it's being reissued on it. If you'd like to see it, I can find it and share my screen.
Thank you. Mary, would you need us all to stop by the town hall to sign it?
Nope. We still have signature pages that we're
perfect.
using. Grace, can you stop sharing so I can find that? Thank you.
Who on the list of participants is EJ?
I don't know. Is there any way you can find out, Grace?
We can ask them to announce themselves, but
They probably won't. They're probably logged off by now.
so the conditions for this determination were erosion controls must be installed and inspected by members of the Conservation Commission and or agent prior to starting work. And then any other permits required for this project shall be obtained prior to starting work. So, and he did install the erosion controls and I did inspect them.
Perfect. Does anyone have a question or concerns? Hearing none, do we have a motion to issue our negative determination, -3?
So moved.
How about a
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Prescott, aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, aye.
Mike, aye.
Sandy, I.
Marcella, I.
Okay, it's a unanimous vote of the commission. And is EJ still here? I guess she's not here. So Grace, I don't know what you do unless you say EJ. Okay, so do we have any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, do a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Aye.
Thank you,
Good
Mary.
Aye.
Great job. Thank you. Good
Night,
night.
folks.
Night, everybody.
Night.
Good night, everyone.
Night.